Taken TV is making TV watchable again. Join us on the Active Kingdom Entertainment Network. Download Taken TV from your App Store now.
Over the last 20 years, with all your support, we've been able to not only launch the original MyPillow, but also the MyPillow mattress topper, Giza Dream bed sheets, My Slippers, and the MyPillow bath towels. But there's so much more. In fact, we have over 200 products, and I'm so confident that you'll love each and every one of them that when you go to MyPillow.com now, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20 just for checking out the website. No purchase necessary. Get everything from MyPillow blankets, sleepwear, kitchen towels, mattresses, duvets, pet beds, body pillows, comforters, couch pillows, bathrobes, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And remember, just for checking out MyPillow.com, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20. No purchase necessary. This is a limited time promotion, so go to MyPillow.com now.
From the heart of our nation's capital, here's Family Research Council President Tony Perkins.
Well, good afternoon. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to this Monday edition of Washington Watch. I'm Jody Heiss, a Senior Vice President here at the Family Research Council. Thrilled to be filling in for Tony today and extremely honored to have you on board with us as well. Coming up on this edition of Washington Watch, there was a flurry of activity over the weekend related to the latest indictment of former President Donald Trump. Lawyers of the former president had until this afternoon to respond to a proposed protective order from prosecutors that would have prevented President Trump and his legal team from speaking publicly about sensitive information on the materials that have been compiled by the special counsel's office. One of those lawyers, John Lauro, decried the attempt over the weekend. This is what he had to say.
What the position of the prosecutor is non-sensitive, ordinary evidence should not be disclosed to the press. That's shocking. Not only do they want to violate President Trump's First Amendment rights, they want to violate freedom of the press. And I'm surprised that the major networks aren't filing papers along with me on Monday.
A major issue developing, that was former president's attorney yesterday on CNN's State of the Union. I'll be joined in just a moment by Congressman Tim Burchett to discuss some of those latest developments. And also, I'll be speaking with Congressman Burchett about claims by Democrats that the investigations into Hunter Biden's business dealings and the Biden family's tie to China are nothing but smoke. And on Saturday, the Alabama Republican Party's Executive Committee passed a resolution reprimanding the Biden administration for violating principles of the Hyde Amendment through its unlawful abortion policy in the military. The resolution also sends resounding support for Senator Tommy Tuberville in his ongoing fight with the Biden administration over its actions. So I'll be joined in just a few moments with the chairman of the Alabama GOP. And speaking of support, there was a prayer rally held yesterday in Ohio to encourage Christians to vote for this major issue called Issue 1.
This is a common sense measure. This is a common sense vote. What happens here, we know will open up the door for many, many other states. Please get this right.
That was former Planned Parenthood Clinic Director Abby Johnson, who was speaking at that prayer rally yesterday. And a little bit later in the program, I'll be joined by Aaron Baer from the Center for Christian Virtue to highlight what's at stake in that critically important vote in Ohio tomorrow. And lastly, attacks against Christian places of worship and also Christian speech continue to increase all across the country. Last week, a young Christian street preacher was arrested in Wisconsin for speaking the truth during a drag queen show that involved children.
You see, as we become more and more tolerant of sexual immorality in our culture, we become more and more intolerant towards Christian morality. And the more we become intolerant towards Christian morality, the more we're going to see lawlessness in our streets.
Well, that was the young preacher himself who was arrested, Marcus Schroeder, addressing the city council meeting last week after his arrest, and he will be joining me live to discuss what happened. We'll also get an update from FRC's Ariel Del Turco on some of the latest attacks on churches and places of worship across North Texas and across the entire country. So we've got another packed show coming your way. And just as a reminder, our website, as always, is TonyPerkins.com. So if by chance you miss any portion of today's program and you want to catch it later, you can do so by going to TonyPerkins.com. Also, of course, we have tons of archived information there for you and a host of resources as well. So keep it handy, TonyPerkins.com. All right, let's jump into the program for this evening. John Lauro, one of the attorneys for former President Donald Trump, was on all the major networks yesterday, on all the Sunday shows, following last week's indictment of the former president and his court appearance. And by the way, there's probably more on the way. Many in Fulton County, Georgia, are preparing for the district attorney there to announce a new indictment, which would, of course, be the fourth against former President Trump. And it might even happen this week. We don't know, but it's imminent, and it looks like it's forthcoming. What are Democrats hoping will come from all of this? Well, with me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Tim Burchett. He serves on 3 House committees, including the House Oversight Committee. He represents the 2nd Congressional District of Tennessee. Congressman Burchett, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you, my friend.
Jody, it's always good to see you and to hear from you. And as soon as you stopped talking, my dog started barking. So you've got something going on.
I've got something going on. That's it always seems to happen that way. Well, listen, let me just get some of your take on this, on the indictments of the former president. What's your general impression and your thoughts of it all?
Well, every time they indict President Trump, his numbers go up. But the reality is this is an actual attack on this country. This is what happens, Jody, when 20 million so-called evangelical Christians decide to stay home on Election Day. This is what happens when we turn from our Judeo-Christian ethic and we allow this kind of nonsense to go on. We are at fault. They didn't take it from us. We are giving it to them. And we've got to address it. We've got to address it at the ballot box. Obviously, they're violating the president's constitutional rights, his First Amendment. He can't talk about the case on a website. The press is not allowed to view this. It's complete censorship. It's everything that's wrong with this country. This is a witch hunt. The American public knows it, and I hope they wake up, because if they don't, Jody, the next thing you'll hear is shackles being thrown on the doors of our churches and places of worship, because this is their next step. If they know they can get by with this, they can get by with anything. This is a blatant abuse of our Constitution.
Yeah, and we're already seeing some of that take place. We'll be dealing with some of those issues a little bit later in the program. But it really is frightening, Congressman. I look at all of this and have to ask myself, and I'd love to ask you, is the concept of equal justice under the law in America rapidly just becoming a slogan and something of our past rather than a reality for all people?
I think it is. I couldn't have put it better myself, brother. We are just seeing this thing erode. It's slipping through our fingers like wet sand. It's just going so fast. And the thing is, it's leaps and bounds. I was on another show today talking to a conservative host, and I said, the way the left does it is they push so far hard to the left, and then we come back, not quite back where we were, but just a little to the left, and then we say, oh, we've compromised, and all we've done is given in to the other side, and we've got to quit this. The Marxists, these are Marxists. This is not your granddad's socialism. This is Marxism, and they are going to take it all from us. They'll throw the Constitution out, and that's what they're doing in this case against President Trump. Because when you see the violation of the First Amendment, they say in school, I don't know if it's true or not, but they put them in. They thought in order of importance: First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, freedom of religion. All those things are right tucked into that beautiful First Amendment. and we're just giving it away to them, Jody, because we're afraid to fight. We're afraid to call it out.
Well, that's why, we are so honored to have people like you representing us, Congressman. I tell you, these are dark days facing our country, and, we as citizens are responsible to pass liberty on to the next generation, and that takes, obviously, representatives like yourself, but all of us standing together. So let me ask you, what do you expect to happen in the coming weeks with these indictments? What do you think is going to happen? What do you hope is going to happen?
Well, I suspect they're going to get a guilty verdict out of some of them, obviously. I mean, how can he get a fair trial in Washington, D.C.? What, 95% of them voted for Joe Biden, the folks up there? That is ridiculous. Move it out of there. Get it in a 40-60 even, with somebody with some common sense, at least, that could judge these issues just in any form of fairness. But you're not going to get that, and they're not going to allow that. I suspect what you're going to see is some guilty verdicts, and the President Trump's going to have to appeal and go to a higher court, and then hopefully we'll get some justice there. But the point is, all they're trying to do is bloody him and bleed him of resources and time, and that's what they're doing. They're doing a very good job of it because they just keep coming up with a new indictment. Next one, who knows maybe they'll get his third grade girlfriend who told the teacher that he mistreated her or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous. The whole thing, I think the public realizes that's why its poll numbers keep going up. And that's why the left doesn't understand the American public is not stupid and they're tired of this garbage.
Well, yeah, and underlying all of this, too, is the timing of it all that just cannot be swept under the rug. This was, it appears, has every appearance of just a smokescreen to draw attention away from what you and others of your colleagues on the House Oversight Committee are doing and unfolding, investigating with Devin Archer and Hunter Biden. Do you see this as just a smokescreen when they're coming after indicting Trump, that they're just trying to draw attention away from really evidence? They hate to see the facts, and you guys in oversight and judiciary continue to bring forth incredible facts of the Biden family.
Yeah, it's exactly, Jody. I was on CNN the other night, and the lady was like, well, there's no facts, there's no evidence. I said, you've got an FBI informant, not a Democrat informant, not a Republican informant, but an FBI informant that's rated, apparently, according to the FBI, as one of their top informants that's brought this information to us. Not hundreds of thousands, but millions of dollars have been paid to the Biden family for nothing other than access. That's all they're paying for. And then you have to question, we just saw yesterday, 2 Chinese men born in China, serving in our United States Navy, charged with espionage. You have a Chinese balloon that flies over the continental United States, transverses it no less, comes back, goes over our secret military installations, some of our missile installations that are public, some of them that are secret. Obviously, they're known to the Communist Chinese, yet we choose not to shoot it down. We wait till it's off the coast of Myrtle Beach. We didn't shoot it down in Montana, where more people work in the dadgum Pentagon, Jody, than work in the than live in the whole state of Montana. Listen, we have been compromised from top to bottom, and they bought it. They bought and sold. They've gotten their price. There's how many pieces of silver that they've thrown down, and they know our price. And we're greedy, and it's showing. Hunter Biden is bad news, and his father is worse because he is our commander in chief, and he is the one sitting at the head table. He needs to be impeached. We need to go after him with everything we've got, because we've got it. The evidence is there. The FBI, as much as they fought us, and thank God for Jamie Comer and Jim Jordan, chair and judiciary, and Jamie on oversight that I'm on, because he is tenacious, and he's got them, and they know it. He's over the target. That's why full force, CNN and all the rest of them are saying there's no evidence. They just keep saying that over and over and over again, but they won't show what we've seen and what we're allowed to show, and they won't even advertise it. They won't put it out at all.
Congressman Tim Burchett, Tennessee, thank you so much for your leadership on this and so many issues. We're grateful for you. And thank you for taking time to join us this evening on Washington Watch. God bless you.
Thank you, Jody. God bless you. And please tell your people to pray for our country, more so now than ever.
We do. We do. Tim Burchett, thank you for coming. Next, we'll be discussing Senator Tommy Tuberville and what's happening with him and the rule of law. Stay tuned.
In recent years, Christians have seen an accelerated assault on not just our core beliefs, but their very foundation. Now is the time to build on that foundation, strengthen our faith, and learn how to translate our beliefs into actions that engage the culture around us. That's the purpose behind this year's Pray Vote Stand Summit, Believe and Engage. Pray Vote Stand Summit is a national gathering of spiritually active, governance-engaged conservatives, or SageCons. We'll hear from Christian leaders, worldview experts, government officials, and more. We'll discuss important issues like the sanctity of life, religious freedom, protecting students, strengthening families, praying for our nation, and how you can impact America's future from a biblical worldview. Together, we can believe and engage. Join us September 15th through 17th in Washington, D.C. for this pivotal event. Register now at PrayVoteStand.org.
Everything we do begins as an idea. Before there can be acts of courage, there must be the belief that some things are worth sacrificing for. Before there can be marriage, there is the idea that man should not be alone. Before there was freedom, there was the idea that individuals are created equal. It's true that all ideas have consequences, but we're less aware that all consequences are the fruit of ideas. Before there was murder, there was hate. Before there was a Holocaust, there was the belief by some people that other people are undesirable. Our beliefs determine our behavior, and our beliefs about life's biggest questions determine our worldview. Where did I come from? Who decides what is right and wrong? What happens when I die? Our answers to these questions explain why people see the world so differently. Debates about abortion are really disagreements about where life gets its value. Debates over sexuality and gender and marriage are really disagreements about whether the rules are made by us or for us. What we think of as political debates are often much more than that. They're disagreements about the purpose of our lives and the source of truth. As Christians, our goal must be to think biblically about everything. Our goal is to help you see beyond red and blue, left and right, to see the battle of ideas at the root of it all. Our goal is to equip Christians with a biblical worldview and help them advance and defend the faith in their families, communities, and the public square. Cultural renewal doesn't begin with campaigns and elections. It begins with individuals turning from lies to truth. But that won't happen if people can't recognize a lie and don't believe truth exists. We want to help you see the spiritual war behind the political war, the truth claims behind the press release, and the forest from the trees.
Executive Committee of the Alabama GOP passed a powerful resolution, both going after the Biden administration for their unlawful attacks, if you will, on the pro-life movement and the Hyde Amendment, and also their resolution strongly supported Senator Tommy Tuberville. We are trying to get him on with us right now and having a little difficulty, so we're going to wait. And while we're waiting on him, I want to transition to another topic that we're going to be discussing in greater detail here in just a little while, and that is what's happening in Ohio tomorrow with the vote on issue 1. And all right, well, I'm going to pause on that. I've just been told we have Chairman John Wall with us on Washington Watch. Chairman, thank you for joining us this evening. We're glad to have you. Here we go. All right. There we go. Well, Chairman, thank you for joining us this evening on Washington Watch. And listen, it's very encouraging what took place over the weekend with in the executive committee of the Alabama GOP. Give us some highlights of basically what this resolution says. Okay, we are still having some technical difficulties trying to get the chairman on with us, so we're going to pause and go back. We're talking here in just a little while about the vote tomorrow coming up in Ohio. This is a critically important vote. As I mentioned, we're going to go a little bit further in the details of this a little bit further in the program, but I want to give kind of right now a little bit of a bird's eye from a different perspective, and that is the amount of money that is flooding into the state of Ohio is just mind-boggling. And so joining me now to discuss this and more is Matt Carpenter. He's the director of FRC Action. Matt, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jody. Great to be with you.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of this. First of all, this is a major vote that the state of Ohio is going to be addressing tomorrow. On a scale of 1 to 10, how significant is this?
You know, Jody, every election is important. I think you know that quite well. But this one is a 10, I got to say, at least a 9. You know, this is something that would raise the threshold for future ballot initiatives in the state of Ohio, kind of raising that floor so that you don't turn Ohio into a California. You don't have a situation where the outside of the state donors are able to just drop millions of dollars and sometimes tens of millions of dollars into a place like Ohio to stir the pot and to turn a place like Ohio into California. So it's very important that pro-lifers and those worried about the next generation, parental rights, right, the innocence of our children. If you want to stop gender transition procedures from being performed on minors, this is a great opportunity to kind of nip a lot of that agenda in the bud.
Absolutely. Let me just say this, Matt. I've just been told we have John Wall with the Alabama GOP chair. So I'm going to go back to him. But real quickly, I want you to stand by because we may be coming back to you. But real quickly, just a bottom line, the amount of money flowing into Ohio right now is stunning. Just in 10 seconds or so, where's the money coming from?
There's about $15 million in outside spending combined to about, I think the last numbers I saw were about $5 million on the yes for issue 1 vote. A lot of that money is coming from the teachers unions, I should say, on the no side. So the NEA, the National Educators Association, dropped $1 million in. Their Ohio chapter dropped $1 million in. Some shadowy, dark money, liberal super PACs and philanthropic groups are also pouring millions of dollars in. So these are not people who purport to speak for Ohio and Ohioans. They're pushing a radical left-wing agenda, and that's what they're interested in seeing. But I'll stick around, Jody, in case there's more on this story. All right, Matt, thank you so much.
All right, Matt, we appreciate that. I'm going to shift over now to John Wall, chairman of the Alabama GOP. John, thank you for joining us this evening.
Can you hear me? All right, yes, can you hear me?
All right, now you're coming through. Yes, sir, we've got you.
For the
Thanks for joining us.
What happened or whose end that was, but I apologize for the delay.
Okay. Real quickly, what does the resolution say? We've only got a couple of minutes left.
Well, look, the bottom line is the Alabama Republican Party is incredibly concerned about what's happening in Washington, D.C. with these holds. You know, when we look at it, this goes back not necessarily to Tommy Tuberville, but the root cause here is that President Biden has forgotten the key facts of constitutionally and really proper protocol for government. He's ignored the Hyde Amendment. He's gone around the proper channels put in place. And constitutionally, federal spending should be decided by the legislative branch, not the executive branch. And this resolution clearly condemns him for that and praises Tommy Tuberville for kind of standing up and taking the lead, fighting for these values.
Yeah, we have here at FRC, we've been standing strong behind Senator Tuberville. He has taken so many hits while he is standing courageously, swimming upstream, literally, against a torrent of activity and attacks. And we could not be more pleased and proud of the actions that you and the executive committee in Alabama took, both calling the Biden's administration out, but supporting Senator Tuberville as well. I understand this was virtually a unanimous vote.
99%. So about as good as you get. I like to joke that 1% probably hit the wrong button when they were voting.
Well, from someone being from Georgia, I couldn't agree. Probably that's what happened. But listen, what else are you hearing from the people of Alabama? Because people need to understand, Alabama GOP is probably the largest in the nation. It's incredibly strong and powerful. What are you hearing across the state?
Well, for us, this is a clear thing because it's not just protecting the lives of the unborn, which is probably the most important issue you have. What do other rights and freedoms matter if you don't have the basic human right to life? So that's number one. But then outside of that, this is a clear fiscally responsible action. The vast majority of Americans do not want their taxpayer funding being used to pay for abortion-related expenses. We've seen this over and over again. This is disrespectful to the taxpayer. This is disrespectful to the Hyde Amendment, to the Constitution, to the vision of our founding fathers, where we see a federal government out of.
Chairman, we got to leave it right there. I apologize. Love to get you back at another time, but thank you for your leadership. We'll be right back.
All of us are born with the desire to find truth and meaning. Where did I come from? What happens when I die? While our answers to these questions may divide us, we are united in our need for the freedom to answer life's biggest questions and make life's biggest decisions for ourselves. That's why religious freedom matters for everyone. Religious freedom matters because the powerful have long wanted to control those who are less powerful. Religious freedom matters because the freedom of those who are different is often threatened by those who believe different is dangerous. Leah Sheribu, a Christian teenager in Nigeria, remains a captive of Boko Haram for her refusal to renounce her Christian faith. Chinese pastor Wang Yi is serving a 9-year sentence for speaking publicly against the Chinese government. In Pakistan, Asif Pervez is on death row for allegedly sending a blasphemous text message. All of this because people in power decided different is dangerous. At the Center for Religious Liberty at Family Research Council, we promote religious freedom for everyone because the only alternative is religious freedom for no one. We encourage Americans and the American government to engage and advocate for the persecuted, and they do. We work every day to bring good news to the afflicted, to proclaim liberty to captives and freedom to prisoners. We do it because that's what Jesus does. We work to give freedom to others because we ourselves have been set free.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. I'm Jody Heiss, your host this Monday evening. Glad to have you joining us as well. All right, we've hit on this issue a number of times, but I want to hit on it once more, considering the potential impact that this is going to have on our entire nation, and that is Ohio tomorrow voting on Issue 1. That's tomorrow, Tuesday, August 8th, is when the fate of Issue 1 is going to be decided. And according to one of the latest polls, and done, in fact, by Ohio Northern University, it looks like it's a dead heat. Like 42.4 are in favor of Issue 1, 41% disapprove. That leaves those small numbers in the middle that are going to decide this. So if you're in Ohio, or if you know people in Ohio, make sure that you get engaged now. Well, joining me now from Ohio to remind us what's at stake is Aaron Baer. He's the president at the Center for Christian Virtue. Aaron, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to focus on such an important issue for us here in the Buckeye State.
Well, it is extremely important, not only to the Buckeye State, but to the entire nation. So let's begin with this, and assuming we have some viewers or listening or listeners who may not be totally up to speed on this issue. Give us your your 1-minute elevator speech. What is at stake? What's going on with issue 1?
Yeah, so at the core of issue 1, it's a really straightforward constitutional amendment. It elevates the threshold to change the Constitution to 60% of the vote. Right now, Ohio is one of only about 10 states that allows citizen-initiated petitions to change their Constitution with only 50% of the vote. Again, compare that to the U.S. Constitution that requires 2/3 of Congress to pass, plus 75% of the states to ratify. And you can see how Ohio's Constitution is a little bit strange in that way. Now, it really highlights that the flaw in our Constitution is really highlighted when you see what the left is doing in America. And I think, Jody, to your point, this shows why this is much bigger than just Ohio, is that since the Dobbs case last year, the case that overturned Roe v. Wade in June of 2022, Planned Parenthood and the ACLU and the abortion industry have really been going state by state to pass their radical abortion on demand and up until birth without parental consent initiative in statutes, in state constitutional amendments, pass them at the ballot box. And Ohio is the only state they're coming after in 2023, and they're actually looking at anywhere from 8 to 11 states in 24. So that's really what's on the line here of why we need to pass issue 1 to protect our Constitution from these dangerous ideas that rob parental rights and attack the unborn.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. This is not something that's going to stay in Ohio. The battle is starting there, but they're going after all states where there is a potential, they think, to change the threshold for a constitutional amendment in those various states. Now, there was a prayer rally yesterday. I saw Abby Johnson, among many others who were there. Tell us about the prayer rally, how it went, and what kind of turnout.
Oh, this was what was just so exciting right now is we're seeing the body of Christ in Ohio rise up like never before. They understand that in order for us to preserve the American promise for the next generation, it's up to us today to fight for it. And that was really the message that came across yesterday in Norwood, in really the Cincinnati area. We had thousands of people come out for an issue 1 rally that was headlined by Abby Johnson, but also Jim Caviezel of the Sound of Freedom. It was just a blessing for these folks to lend their voice to Ohio right now, and really to this pro-family, pro-parent, pro-life movement that is being sparked here in Ohio right now to encourage folks to go out and vote yes. I will say, you often hear about the silent majority when it comes to elections like this, and we saw them stand up and roar yesterday, and I think Tuesday, tomorrow, if the church rises up, if Christians turn out to vote, we'll see victory, and it'll be very clear that the body of Christ delivered it.
That's awesome. All right, that right there is a national call to prayer. Each of you watching, listening right now, now is the time to pray for tomorrow's vote in Ohio. Aaron, I want to, obviously there's a lot of opposition and there's a lot of deception in all this. I want to play a clip, and then I want to give you an opportunity to set the record straight. Play clip 5, please.
If issue 1 passes and we have a 60% requirement, that will allow 40% of Ohio voters to be the decision makers.
All right, set the record straight for us here.
Again, so this is just the left's lies because they have nothing else to go along with this. The bottom line is all we're talking about here is how we amend our Constitution, right? The Constitution is something that those foundational principles go into, right? It's not a place for policy making. It's a place for foundational principles. The reality is we're not touching any of the other processes for changing law. So we have initiated statute in Ohio that allows the voters to change the law with 50% of the vote. We have the legislative process that allows voters and the republic that we formed to change the law with 50% of the vote. All of those things stay in place. All we're talking about here is how we amend our Constitution. And that's the thing that these guys don't want to talk about. They're lying about this entire time, is that because our Constitution is so easy to amend, it invites George Soros and all these leftist causes to come in and flood the zone to change the foundational document of the state, which basically can't be undone with just enough money. We're keeping the power with the voters by saying that we're not going to allow special interests to come into our state and pour buckets of money to manipulate the Constitution.
Aaron Baer for the Center for Christian Virtue, thank you so much for keeping us abreast of this critical time in Ohio. and in our country. We're grateful to your leadership, and thank you for joining us this evening on Washington Watch.
Always grateful to join you. Thankful for FRC for always being first to the fight whenever we need you in the States.
Thank you so much. All right, friends, coming up, we have attacks on Christian speech, attacks on places of worship. We'll cover all of it right after the break. You do not want to miss what's coming your way in just a few moments, so stay tuned. We'll be right back on the other side of this break.
It begins here, and here, and here. Every day. Before you stand, you need solid ground. Standing in a culture that wants you to surrender the truth won't work unless you have a firm foundation. At Family Research Council, we have that firm foundation, and you can find us standing. We stand for the value of all human life. We stand for the right of families to flourish. And every day we stand for your freedom to believe and to live out those beliefs both at home and abroad. We work with government officials, educating them on the issues from a biblical worldview. And when necessary, we hold them accountable. We equip Christians across America to be informed and to take action in their communities. With our daily radio program, television appearances, and vast online presence, we reach people where they are. We envision an America where all human life is valued, families flourish, and religious liberty thrives. And that won't be realized if we're not standing. Stand for faith. Stand for family. Stand for freedom. Stand with us at FRC.
I'm often asked by people, Tony, how do you stay encouraged? How do you deal with all of the stuff in Washington, D.C., the negative policies that are attacking our faith, our family, and our freedoms? Well, you want me to let you in on the secret? It's called the Word of God. And that is why the Family Research Council embarked on Stand on the Word, a 2-year journey through the Bible. It's a chronological Bible reading plan with just 10 to 15 minutes a day. In 2 years, you will have covered the entire Bible. And to go along with this, Monday through Friday, I do a morning devotional that goes along with the reading of the day. It's all designed to encourage you on this journey because the Word of God, as the psalmist said, in my affliction, here's my comfort. Your Word gives me life. That is our source of strength. To find out more, go to tonyperkins.com or frc.org/Bible. And I invite you to join me every morning for our Stand on the Word Bible devotion.
This fall, believers from across America will gather in our nation's capital. We'll hear from government leaders, policy experts, and leading Christian voices, learning how we can engage in government at every level, from local school boards to state legislatures to Congress and even the White House, to win back the soul of our nation. Join with us for the Pray, Vote, Stand Summit, Believe and Engage, September 15th through 17th. Register now at PrayVoteStand.org. FRC, celebrating 40 years with Dr. James Dobson.
And I just want to congratulate you on everything that's said and done there. I believe in the Family Research Council and the work that it's doing. There aren't very many left that are that true blue, that conform with biblical truth. But this organization has done that, and I congratulate you for it.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. Of course, that was Dr. James Dobson. All of us here at Family Research Council love and admire Dr. Dobson enormously, and I know you do as well. He was a huge part of starting FRC 40 years ago, and his comments and his impact still continue to resonate all across the country. We want to encourage you, likewise, to come, as you just saw a little commercial there, to come join us in September for the Pray, Vote, Stand conference. It's one of those things that you don't want to miss. You're going to hear some phenomenal speakers. You're going to be encouraged. You're going to be inspired. You will join with thousands of others who are standing for faith, family, and freedom. So check it out, and we hope you'll come join us for the Pray, Vote, Stand conference coming up in September. All right, we have Christian speech all over the country being attacked, people going after it. We have places of worship being attacked all over the country. Just recently, for example, there was a spate of attacks against churches in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And that has, quite frankly, brought back a national conversation about the rising hostility that we see right here in America against churches all across the country, literally. In fact, you may recall that FRC released a groundbreaking report last December that showed the astonishing extent of hostility of Christians here in America, the things that people are facing. And earlier this year, FRC released an addendum to that report that examines what's already happened this first quarter of this year, which likewise is stunning to behold. Well, we're watching vandalism, property damage, intimidation. All of these type of things are happening both to individuals and places of worship. And so coming to join me now is Ariel Del Turco, who is FRC's director of the Center for Religious Liberty, and she is the author of both the FRC groundbreaking reports that I just referenced. Ariel, welcome back to the program. Great to have you.
Jody, thank you for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure. All right, so you were actually quoted in the Dallas Morning News about the recent attacks that have been taking place there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and different places across North Texas. So let's just begin there. What happened to these churches in the DFW area?
Yeah, so there have been several nasty attacks against churches in the northern Texas area. In one instance, a church was actually firebombed. So it was purposely set on fire with a chemical device and did a lot of damage to the church main doors and entryway, especially. Thankfully, no one was hurt. In another instance, we saw a church vandalized twice in 2 months, and people left nasty, horrible, threatening messages along with swastikas all across the church. It was really a gross display. And this just goes to show that these attacks against churches continue to be a rising issue. And it's a real challenge to religious freedom because a basic part of religious freedom is simply being able to go to church and feel like your church is not going to be attacked. You're safe to go, that you're tolerated and welcomed in a community. So this continues to be a real problem.
Well, what about the authorities there? We have, and I know you know this probably better than anyone, across the country, so many of these attacks, things that have been happening, even against the pregnancy resource centers, all these, they're all kind of related, but there seems to be no prosecutions. No one is ever found guilty of these things, and if they are, there's oftentimes just a slap on the wrist. How are the authorities dealing with this outbreak in the North Texas area? The authorities, local, state, federal, all of them combined, is there an effort to really get to the bottom of it?
Yeah, this is one of the most discouraging aspects of this problem. Sometimes it's difficult for the police to identify a perpetrator of these attacks for whatever reason. Sometimes they're prosecuted, but maybe not as fully as they could be. But I think there's just a lot of political apathy, and there's not always the political will to prioritize protecting churches and preventing these attacks. We see this from the very top. Earlier this year in April, the Biden administration, Department of Justice, they recommended no jail time for someone that committed crimes against a church. I believe they had done damage to the exterior and tried to throw a brick through a window, and they also assaulted a church employee. And yet the Biden administration recommended that this person receive no jail time. So I think this apathy is really coming from the very top with the Biden administration. And so we really need our political leaders to be speaking out forcefully against these attacks, making clear that this is unacceptable and that there is no room for these type of attacks in the United States.
What do you think is causing this? It seems to be, I mean, we've seen this type of thing going on for quite a while, but it's absolutely increasing in numbers and in violence. What is the underpinning issue that's causing this hostility?
Yeah, and it's hard for us to know what's in the human heart, especially with all of these diverse attacks occurring all across the country. But there are a few things that we know are true. We know that the United States is an increasingly secular place where people just understand religion less and less. They understand the value of it less. And so I think that when there is a moment that sparks a lot of political anger, it becomes more thinkable for people to go against churches, to target churches and take out their rage and anger against them. We live in a culture that really has no tolerance for any criticism of the cultural norms, any criticism of the dogma created by the sexual revolution that's taught in schools now. There's absolutely no tolerance. And this cancel culture mindset, it's really spilling into other facets of our culture, including physical attacks against churches. When we're seeing so many criticisms against churches, people calling our biblical beliefs evil, people attacking us for what we believe about hot button political issues like abortion or same-sex marriage or gender ideology. When we're called evil for that, that really opens the door for more and more targeting of churches, not just rhetorically, but also physically too.
Absolutely. Real quickly, Ariel Del Turco, where can people go to find the religious hostility report and the addendum that you put together?
So both of our reports can be accessed at frc.org/hostility against churches.
Thank you so much, Ariel Del Turco, for joining us on this edition of Washington at Watch and for your tremendous leadership on this issue. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, friends, probably many of you, if not all of you, by this time probably have seen a video of a young Christian street preacher being detained by police in Wisconsin last week. It went viral. The arrest happened quickly. It happened without warning. It was during a Pride event that was headlined by drag queens. It was done in front of children. Well, what led to the arrest? What all happened? Where is it all now? Joining me now to discuss this himself is that street preacher, Marcus Schroeder, who is part of the ministry Warriors for Christ. Marcus, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you. And first of all, let me just say thank you for your courageousness, your willingness to stand in behalf not only of yourself, but for the entire nation and for the First Amendment and religious liberties. Thank you for that. So before we get into the arrest itself, tell us what you were watching at this Pride event and why you decided to go in the first place.
Yeah, my group will go out to many different events like this, but at this specific event, they were doing a drag queen story hour. They did that in the morning for probably, I'd say, 15, 20 minutes, but then the afternoon, they have 2 dance hours. So it's like a children's dance hour with the drag queens. And so that's what they did in the afternoon. And so it was literally grown men dressed as women in lingerie. Some of them in lingerie. The children were even giving dollar bills to the drag queens. They were dancing with the drag queens as the drag queens did sexually suggestive dances in front of 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids. And so they did 2 of these dance hours. The first dance hour was I forget the exact time, but probably right around 1 o'clock. And then they had a second dance hour later, which is when I was arrested. I was arrested, I think, right before they were about to start their second dance hour, somewhere around those lines.
Okay, so let's talk about the arrest itself. What happened? What were you doing that the police officers said was the reason for the arrest? Tell us about what was taking place and what happened.
What's funny is they didn't actually give me much of a reason for arrest. As you see in the video, they don't talk to me much. The beginning of the video, that video that's been played all over Instagram and social media and things like that, the very beginning of that video is the beginning of me using the amplification. So that video is the entire footage of me preaching and our entire interaction with the police. So as you see in that video, the police didn't give me any warning beforehand. He just comes up, grabs the mic from my hand. We're trying to ask him, is there a code that we're violating? You told us, like he had told us before, that we could protest at the fence. They had never mentioned anything about us not having amplification. So that's what we were trying to ask him. And then all of a sudden, a cop from behind me grabs my other arm. They handcuff me. And they detained me for about an hour or two. And then they eventually charged me with amplification without a permit and resisting arrest. And the officer who was walking me off, like right about now in the video, I was asking that officer who handcuffed me why I was being arrested, what I was being charged with. He said resisting arrest. I said, how am I being charged with resisting arrest? Because as you see in the video, I didn't resist arrest. And so he said my muscles tensed up. Which obviously in the video, he grabs my arm from behind without me expecting it. There was no warning beforehand. I had no idea that I was about to be arrested. I was kind of focusing on the officer in front of me. So he grabs my arm from behind. So any tensing of my muscles was like a natural reflex from surprise. And that's what they charged me with.
Yeah, anyone would do that when you don't see it coming. You're not aware of what's happening. That's so unbelievable that this is happening. So you went to the police station, law enforcement, and what happened there? Were you given any further information?
They printed off for me. The officer who actually booked me at the station, he was nice, but he printed off for me the different citations and the specific codes that I was being charged with. And so that is those two codes. That's essentially what happened. We talked a bit, but there wasn't much more. One other thing actually that they did give me at the station was essentially a warning that for the next 2 weeks, if I go on any Watertown public parks, that I will be arrested on the spot and charged with state fine. So essentially, I'm banned from all Watertown public parks for the next 2 weeks. And
why? Did they give a reason?
They didn't give a reason. No, I think that the rationale that they started to say was, disrupting the event, which if you see the video, I'm not sure if in that specific video it shows how far away I was from the actual drag queen event, but I think there might be a different angle that might show kind of where I was in relation to the drag queen event. I was quite a ways away. There was a whole field in between me and where they were hosting the dance hour, and the amplification was not turned up very loud. So it wasn't like they could hear me, but it wasn't a major disruption, and it was on a public sidewalk, and so we have the right to free speech for that. So, yeah.
Wow. So what has happened since the arrest? What have you experienced since this happened?
Yeah, I guess with that actual city, I went Tuesday. So Saturday, I was arrested. Tuesday night, I went before the city and testified before their city council. So the chief of police were there. A few officers that I had recognized from them being there Saturday were there. The actual officers in the video were not there, but I testified before the city council, kind of talked about this. And now I've had several law firms reach out. I'm contemplating, which one to go with, and from there we'll decide where exactly we take this legally. But our main goal is to use the story, use this opportunity we have legally, not just to go after the officers or anything like that. That's not what I want to do. I'm not in this so I can make any money from a lawsuit. What I want to do is make sure that next year they don't have the drag queen story hour. So anything that we can do to influence the city to say we're not going to allow grown men to do sexual performances for children in our city anymore. If that's what comes out of this, then that's our greatest hope and desire.
Marcus, thank you for standing. In 10, 15 seconds is all we have left. What encouragement would you give to our viewers and listeners?
Just be faithful. Be faithful in doing ministry and speaking the truth, and that's what God will bless.
Marcus Schroeder, thank you so much for taking a stand, for taking a hit for all of us, and we're all behind you, praying for you and praying that this turns out in a God kind of way. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, friends, that wraps up this Monday edition of Washington Watch. Thank you for joining us. This is the America we're living in. That's why we are here. Keep the torch ablaze. We'll see you tomorrow.
Washington Watch with Tony Perkins is brought to you by Family Research Council and is entirely listener-supported. Portions of the show discussing candidates are brought to you by Family Research Council Action. For more information on anything you've heard today, or to find out how you can partner with us in our ongoing efforts to promote faith, family, and freedom, visit TonyPerkins.com. Also, to leave a comment about Washington Watch, call our watch line at 1-866-372-7234. That's 1-866-372-7234.
Hi, I'm Joe Sweeney. I founded the Acervo Project in response to the growing epidemic of human trafficking and child exploitation. Classifying this as an epidemic is an understatement. Our investigation teams and cyber analysts are tracking child predators every day. We're making a difference, but we need your help. The average age of a trafficked child is just 14 years old. Will you join the Acervo Project team? Donate $14 a month to protect the next at-risk 14-year-old. Pledge your $14 a month at theacervoproject.org. That's ASSERVO.org.
Taken TV is making TV watchable again. Join us on the Active Kingdom Entertainment Network. Download Taken TV from your App Store now.